Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? My name is Rob Carmona, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of Rob the Mic. For this one, we're going to start off with a little bit of car talk. And the reason why we're doing that is because I had some activity on Saturday. And I wanted to share it with you guys because it's something a little bit different for me. It was a little out of the norm. So Sebastian and myself took off to a Motortrend event. And they just moved to a new headquarters in El Segundo. And they were doing like a soft launch cars and coffee type of situation. They don't really know how often they're going to do it, whether it's going to be like a quarterly, monthly, once a year, like who knows? They don't really know yet. But this was just kind of like a soft launch for it to see who would show up, what exactly all would go down, and all of that. So my buddy works really, really close to there. So he was like, hey, dude, caught wind of this. Let's roll. So I said, cool, let's roll. So Sebastian and I took off. We left around, say it was like around 8. So it was a pretty decent time. And it was going to go till about 11 or 12 or something like that. So we went, got there, and it was, I'm not going to say it's the crowd you would expect, but it was kind of the crowd you'd expect, because I normally don't gravitate towards like motor trendy, magazine-y type events, just because I'm more of like I have a very specific style car that I look for, whether it's in American side or like lowriders or JDM or anything like that. I'm like, I look for, I guess you could say, like a very niche market when it comes to car events. So I tend to stay away from like the general public magazine for the masses type of thing. But when Sebastian told me about it, I said, you know what, dude, let's go. I need something a little bit different. I need to look at something like some new perspectives, right? Let's check out some of this magazine shit. Let's see what's going on. So we get there, and it was funny because we pulled up in his Jeep, which is all, I mean, it's all decked out, you know. But then when we got there, they're like, "Oh, are you guys a part of the showcase?" And we're like, "Nah, we're just here to look at cars, you know." So we ended up parking because we didn't think there'd be any 4x4s or anything like that, and so we parked and we walked in. From the moment we walked in, I was like, yeah, this is a magazine type shit." And it was funny because actually when we got off the freeway, we were driving to the event with this like super bright lime green Lambo, white wheels. The guy was driving like a total douchebag, like in first gear the whole way, I could swear. Just backfiring, making all kinds of noise. And I was like, oh God, this is what we're going to, right? Like supercar, just dickhead type bullshit. So I said, here we go. But when we got there was actually a couple cool cars. Not that I was surprised, but I kind of was surprised at the same time, because I feel like style tends to lack pretty heavy at these events. Like I feel like the general public, I know this is going to be like I'm attacking them, but the general public tends to lack style, in my opinion, which is why I lean more towards niche markets. And I feel like a lot of those people lack style because they don't really have the influence. They don't know what to look for. And they're just looking at whatever the media is showing them. The media being magazines like Motortrend and, you know, brands like Hoonigan and shit like that. So people just kind of see that and they think automatically that's cool, which in my opinion is completely wrong. I think once you dive into a certain scene, depending on what it is that you like, you end up finding that there's like a hardcore group of people that actually are the heart of exactly what it is that you love, right? So for JDM stuff, like if you like the general things, you're going to go to like hot import nights type events, right? And then you'll kind of move from hot import nights to like Week Fest. And not that I'm saying that they're the same, but I mean, Week has changed a lot for sure. And I know probably a lot of you watching and or listening, you would agree with me that Week has changed a lot, but the crowd and the type of car is definitely different. But once you kind of go from there, then you start going to like the smaller meets, right? And then you start going from smaller meets to like the more private stuff. And then you start trying to find and see what it is that you like about these things, right? Because the core group and the people who kind of are the heart and soul of whatever it is that you love, they low key run the scene, right? Like they run and they do their thing, but they kind of do it under the radar. And then everything else that kind of leaks out, it gets watered down. So I feel like that's kind of how it goes for the most part. Like style comes from a very niche group of people and then it gets watered down as it goes away. And again, for me attending this event, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what I was going to see. I knew I was going to see supercars because I know supercars tend to gravitate towards that type of shit. And also the area that we were in, because I mean, El Segundo is a pretty wealthy area for the most part. At least like the people who kind of live in that El Segundo, Manhattan type of space, you're pretty well off to be there. So I knew I would see supercars, but I didn't know what else I'd walk into. And I was a pleasant surprise. Like as soon as we walked out, because we parked pretty much right in the front. First thing that we walked into was, or at least the first thing I noticed, because it was like right in the front, was a Liberty Walk C8. It was like a burgundy color, beautiful, absolutely beautiful car. And I mean, I'm a fan of the C8. Like I think it looks very supercar-y, but it's not a supercar. So I can totally fuck with that. But this kit, man, the Liberty Walk kit is something else. And I'm not one for wide bodies. I'm really not a big fan of them. I think like people just do it and it became very like mass produced. And now you have all these people doing just wide body everything. So a lot of it isn't very tasteful. But the Liberty Walk kit for the C8 looks, I'm not going to say it looks OEM, but it kind of does. Like it gives very like very hypercar look, right? It looks like a really bougie Ferrari or like a crazy Lambo type of thing. Like it sits in the same realm. And the way the kit fits, depending on who installs it and whatever process you do, whether it's paint, wrap, whatever, it can look incredible. And this one specifically was gorgeous. And actually, at the end of talking about this, for those of you watching, I'll include some photos. But that way you guys can see what I'm talking about. But it was beautiful burgundy color. It had like a really pretty like bronzish copper wheel that was on it. Really badass. Like very, very well done. And the next thing that was really exciting that was parked, I guess, behind it was a fully built RX-3. That was really badass and kind of covered like both ends of the spectrum in the sense of like things that I would be into per se. Like there's things that are really, really crazy and wild like that C8. And then there's shit that's really old school, really badass, super period correct like the RX-3. So I was like, okay, I like the contrast of these two. And the fact that they were parked back to back. Because it's like, okay, you get this world and this world at the exact same time. And they're both done to the maximum of what both of them can offer, right? Like this Vet maxed out. This RX-3 maxed out. So I can fuck with it. I like seeing the juxtaposition of the two, at least parked back to back like that. And then there was a couple other cars. There's a really, really clean 5 Series wagon, just bone stock, all full M-Tech. Super nice. Some Audis, things like that, BMWs, or a couple nice S2000s. But normally I'm not a hypercar, supercar fan. But I feel like there's certain cars when you see them, you're like, oh shit. It's like the poster you had when you were 7 type of thing. So one of the cars that was there was a Pagani Huayra. And if you don't know what that is, Google it. It's a beautiful fucking car. Like that is one of the cars for me, super hypercar realm. I fully geek over it because it's badass. It is completely badass. You can't see that car and not be like, dude, that's fucking sick. It was all carbon. It was gorgeous. It had blue accents. The interior is incredible, absolutely phenomenal. Everything's handcrafted, hand stitched, all of it. And it's like it's a work of art to see. And not to mention that the car is worth a couple $1 million. And I think to be in the presence of that is like, damn, dude, I don't know. It was pretty cool for me. It was cool for Sebastian. And we were in shock. Because again, I think for both of us, I speak for myself, but I know for both of us, we're not big fans of those types of cars. But this car was nuts. Absolutely nuts to see. And I'm glad that I saw it. It's always cool. Like it's nice to feel 7 again, you know? And just geek out on a car for exactly what it is. You're like, fuck, it looks so cool. And it has like these fucking little shits here and this is here and all this carbon and all this and all that. But it's done so incredibly well. So you can't help but love it and appreciate it. And then parked right next to it was 2 different Koenigseggs. There was an Agera and a Rigera. Those 3 cars alone, I couldn't even fathom. Like it didn't even make sense. at all. Like it was close to $10 million in cars that were just sitting there. And it's cool to see them. Again, it's fucking cool. I mean, and styling wise, I'm definitely like the Pagani is a lot more something I would gravitate towards just because of how aggressive it looks, and there's just something about it. And not that Koenigsegg doesn't have that energy and doesn't bring that to the table, but it just looks very hypercar. Like it's like, oh shit, this is expensive. I don't know what it is, and it looks crazy, but I can appreciate it. And I could definitely appreciate it. And I've never seen a Regera in person. So again, I'll post pictures of all those things. But it was so sick, dude, to see shit like that. And I was like, man, the one thing I didn't think I would care for and appreciate is exactly the thing that I ended up caring for and appreciating when I was there, because they stuck in my head. Those cars stuck in my head. Those, at least, what is it? Those 5 really stuck out. And there was a couple in the off-road side that were kind of cool too. But just in general, it was interesting to go to. And I'm glad that I went, because I was able to kind of open up a little bit, because I've been so stuck in this realm of, I go to old school, I go to lowrider, and I'm not tired of it by any means. And, going to JDM events and things like that, which I know, like I had told you guys too, even attending 240 Tuesday, but I needed something different. I needed to kind of like shake things up a little bit and not appreciate the things that I love, but also appreciate the things that I love, because I'm very thankful and very grateful to be as deep as I am in certain things, because I'm like, man, this is cool. Like I know these people think this type of shit is cool, but man, the shit that I get to see and the stuff I get to do and the people I know that are in this industry, man, like we have some cool shit and we do some cool shit, like it was so interesting just to kind of think about that. And Sebastian was asking me about it too. Like as we're walking around, he's like, dude, like what is it that's catching you right now? Because he knows that I'm very active, very, very active. And I am, I'd say automotive wise, I'm very hard to catch. Like I'm very, very hard to catch. I'm very hard to please. I have super high expectations. I like what I like. It's that type of thing. Like if your car has a certain energy and I really fuck with it, I fuck with it. But it's got to have something for me. And I think it just comes with having done this for such a long time and been in the industry for such a long time. So when I see things constantly being copied, it doesn't speak to me. It doesn't do it. Like unless there's one of those copies that's done extremely well and stands out from the rest, then I can fuck with that. But going to something like this just kind of showed me and put certain things in a perspective. So as we were talking, we spent the rest of the morning, like went to go eat and just kind of chill out, have a drink. And he's like, dude, it'd be cool. Hopefully, depending on what Motortrend wants to do with this event, that they can like market it and push it out. Because if they do, I would definitely like to attend this event with my car, and I would try to bring a couple homies with me just to kind of, I think it's fun because you can open people's perspective, and especially bringing cars that don't belong in certain areas or go to certain events. That's my favorite thing to do, because you stick out for the right reasons. It's like, how did you hear about this? How are you here? Okay, there's a bunch of Lambos, and then why is there a wild ass VIP car? It's like, oh, I heard about it, so I wanted to peek through. I heard this was like an enthusiast thing, so why the fuck not? Like, I love shit like that. It's my favorite. And it's just, you get to stand out. And again, open people's perspectives. The same way that me going to this event kind of opened my eyes a little bit more. If I was to do the opposite, right? Like be an attendee, I could open up people's perspectives a little bit, because maybe they've never seen something like that before. Maybe they don't even know what VIP is. And then they see the queue and they're like, oh shit. Okay. And maybe they've never seen a street style car, and I can get some of my street style homies in S chassis to come through. Because they're like, oh, what the fuck is this? Is this a drift car? Yeah, kind of. And then break it down like that. And then certain off-roader homies that come. It's like, you've never seen a rock crawler before? I got you. Here you go. So it's fun to do that. It's really, really fun. It's cool to open up the perspective and show people things. And also for myself, like it feels good. Because then at that point, I feel like I'm doing my part to keep the industry moving, to keep the scene alive. Right? Because the more eyes, the more ears that catch wind of this type of stuff, it's like, oh, I want to find more. And I think that's our job as being an automotive enthusiast. It's not just for us, but we have a responsibility. We represent the community, right? Which is the whole issue, for example, with like the takeover things, right? The media and law enforcement and things like that, they're looking at them as the representatives of what we do. And it's completely wrong. Honestly, it couldn't be more wrong. So it's our job, the ones who actually fuck with it, who actually love the scene. It's our job every time we drive, whatever vehicle it is that we own, to be a representative of that. To show people like, hey, not everybody's like what you guys are seeing on TV and what you're seeing on the news. Again, what's being shown to the masses is very different from what the core group is. Because none of the people that I associate with, fuck with that shit. We don't support it. We're not here for it. The only thing we support and that we're here for, which is super fucked up to say, but is like watching the videos of like people get messed up at those events. Like you'll see somebody standing there on their phone and then bam, just get hit 40, 50 miles an hour by like a charger or some shit. It's like, well, what were you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing dumb shit? And watch people crash into each other and crash their cars and all this. And it's like, dude, all of these dumbasses are the problem. But again, it's our responsibility to change that. One thing at a time, one event at a time, one cruise at a time. Because then people are going to say, oh, they're not like the other ones. So again, it's cool. I'm not trying to make it like all serious and be like, oh, it's our responsibility. But again, it is. I think if you love what you do and you want to be a representative for it, so this is your chance, right? Every time you go out, every time you drive, every time you cruise, you got to remember shit like that. Because all these fuck ass fools that are out here swinging it in intersections just are continuously fucking it up. And they're just making things harder and backing up laws that are getting put into effect. And it's like, well, they're just trying to shut the whole shit down. They don't want people to mod here in Cali. They don't want us to have cars. They don't want us to do shit like that. Like even though, for example, with cruising, they're saying cruising isn't a crime, it's still definitely targeted and you still can't go to certain areas and cruise. So it's like, fuck. Things still got to get worked out. There's still some kinks, But overall, it was really sick. The day was really cool. And the fact that it was only the first half of my day, I was like, damn, I need to have more days like this. Where it's like wake up early, do really cool shit, get home, and then have time to do more cool shit. So once I got back, it was like a precursor to the rest of my afternoon. I had a photo gallery that I was going to be going to with Albert and Yessie. And it was something I caught wind of a while back. The event was called Los Lowriders. And it was interesting. It was very, very interesting. I think the setup as a whole and the potential of the space is incredible. It was beautiful, actually. It's was also located in El Segundo. It was close to LAX, or a little bit closer to LAX than where I was in the morning. It just it looked kind of like a small aircraft hangar, just all white, really pretty, polished concrete floor. And they had like bigger pieces that were printed on the walls, and then they had works just kind of hanging, but they were hanging via like fish wire, and they had like really thin, I guess you could say like wood framing on the top and the bottom. So when you walked into the space and you just kind of looked, it looked as if the photos were just floating in space. And I loved it. Presentation wise, it was incredible. The work itself was also really nice. I'm not really sure how it was shot, whether it was shot digitally or film or anything like that. So I can't really, not that I can't critique it, because I can, but I'm not going to, because I think as a whole, it was a cool experience. It was. And the exhibit was essentially, to my understanding, was just to showcase people who are within that realm, who lowride, who are into classics, or who are just kind of associated with that scene in general. And it was cool the way a lot of these things were showcased. Like there were certain people and their tattoos that were showcased. There were just certain like lifestyle moments that were showcased. Whether they were in a relationship or not, it would be like an embrace between like partners, somebody with their kid, and just kind of smiling and holding them, and just kind of being able to show like, hey, this person might look a certain way and have certain tattoos and kind of put out a certain vibe, but it's like look at this picture of them holding their daughter and laughing. And like, this is the person that they are. There's so much more than what you see. And I think showcasing this realm specifically, lowrider LA culture, is very important to see that, because people look at it a certain way and it may have a certain connotation, whether it's negative or not. Can't really speak to that. But all of these people are literally that. They are people. And they're all really great. Because I knew a lot of the people that were a part of the exhibit and who were shot for these things. And I'm like, yo, like all these people are really fucking rad. And they've always been really nice to me. So it was cool to see them in that space. It really was. And it's like tight, you know, these people are getting the love they deserve. And there was also a couple cars, which was pretty rad. So I can fuck with that. One of the guys, there was a couple genocide cars there, which is cool, and affiliates, which was really nice. Dello was there. He got featured in a couple photos. So that was really cool. This guy, Shaney, which I've posted a picture of his car before. It's a picture that, or it's a white Impala that has a really gnarly paint job, like on the hood, the roof, and the trunk. It was done by K-Daddy. Super badass, incredible painter. Honestly, in my opinion, one of the best in the world. So he was there showing off his car. He was parked in the very back against this like white backdrop. So it was cool. It had like a very studio vibe where he was parked at. Then it was Delos. Then there was a really badass bug, like super fucking sick. Super sick. Like badass color, slammed, just hard. Super fucking hard. So again, all around the vibe was there. There was a couple lowriders parked outside, coming and going, you know? So it was I liked it. I liked it as a whole. And weather-wise, for outside, if you were to take some photos, killer, because it was very overcast. So it's like it makes for good photos. I was into it. But again, overall, the space is really sick. The potential is fucking killer, man. Like I would love to have something like that to throw an event. Like I immediately, when we got in there and we were walking around for a few minutes, we did our first round, and then Albert looks at me and he's like, dude, can you imagine throwing a summer jam here? And that's the first shit I thought about as soon as we walked in there. Is I was like, fuck, dude, a summer jam here would be sick. Just because of the way you can set cars up inside, the way you can set cars up like on the outside and literally outside of the gates. Like, fuck, dude, killer. And the acoustics are really badass. So when you play music, like it sounds a certain way. So I'm like, dude, this would be the dream. So I don't know. Maybe I can reach out to that studio and see what it takes to rent something like that, or how to get involved with them in some way, shape, or form. But it would be sick, and that space is really badass for sure. I can't remember the name of it. Once I get the information, I'll go back and look at it and post it up for you guys. Something that was also really cool that I liked about the exhibit is they did like a Mayan heritage performance. And for a lot of you who don't know what that is, or if you do know what it is, sick. If you don't, basically it's what they do is it's actually a performance, and it's to pray to the gods. So whether it's like you pray to the earth, you pray to the sun, the moon, anything like that, the entire performance it's just a cultural experience. It's so that we can understand our roots, so we can understand how important these things are, right? Because they're very much real today. Just because there isn't people running around in headdresses and things like that doesn't mean that the culture is dead. Because for myself, it's very important. Like it was very moving to watch it. It's very, very moving. And I don't know, I felt very different afterwards. Even the smell of like the frankincense and just the actual ceremonial part of it, I could appreciate it. And again, it made me feel different. Because I'm like, damn, dude, that's my heritage. You know, that's a part of me. So when I see things like that, it's cool. And in this sort of space, I was very intimate. And with people that I love, I was like, oh man, I couldn't ask for anything else. This is sick. So I felt light after it. I felt meaning. Like I felt this crazy just sense of belonging and love. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I needed. This is what I needed. So I appreciated that. And then I had one gripe about it. Well, I had a couple gripes about the whole thing, but one gripe about that performance is there was a couple that was standing a little bit, like not like super close to me, but I'd say maybe like 10-ish feet away. And there's drums during the ceremony and the whole thing. And this girl had looked back at her boyfriend and she like started to twerk for a second, when I saw that, I got so pissed, like immediately. I was fucking infuriated. I looked at Albert and he caught it too. But I was just like, motherfucker, dude. Like, this isn't a fucking joke. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure she didn't mean it that way, but it just felt so fucking stupid. Like, I was like, yo, that's mad disrespectful. These people who are performing, like, they take this fucking serious. This is a part of their life. It's a part of their culture. And a lot of people here. And you turning around and doing that in a public space makes you look really stupid. And maybe a lot of people didn't really notice it because where I was, I'm not going to say a lot of people didn't seem as if they were brown, but it didn't seem like there was a lot of brown people where I was standing. Well, myself, Albert, and Yessie. So it's like, I can understand if they don't understand how important this is, but like, why you got to act like that in a public place? Because you look really fucking stupid, you know? Like, you look really fucking stupid. So again, for myself, I hated that shit. It's not that I didn't even like it. Like, I fucking hated it. But there's a lot of people who are just ignorant to that shit and don't understand culture because they don't have it. They don't come from something that does have something like that. I feel like for myself, I have, like, where my families are from, there's so much. It's so deep rooted. So I care very much about where I'm from. Very much. I'm very proud Guatemalan, very fucking proud. And my heritage means the world to me. It's everything. Most people who know me know that I'm from Guatemala. They know that. Like, I was born here. My family is from Guatemala. So it's very emotional for me. That type of stuff really hits home. Anytime I can see anything regarding any of these performances, stuff like that, read about my culture, learn about my culture, like, I want to know more about it. And I'm not saying specifically like this was for like Guatemalan people, but it's people just from like Mexico of like Latino descent, because for us that's where we come from. And these are things that matter. You know, we look to this stuff. You know, we are thankful to the earth, we're thankful to the sun, we're thankful to the moon, to the universe for providing things. So there's a very, very deep element that can be broken down for multiple things, right? But we don't have to get into that today. But I really enjoyed it. But as a whole, it was interesting to see the different people that were there and like the culture clashes and things like that. Because it was very, I don't know, I felt like not like very yuppie, which if you know what yuppies are, you know what yuppie is, and you understand. Not that I don't mean it in an offensive way, but it's like it's so interesting to see people not of your culture, not exploiting it, but kind of making it a certain way. And I remember going over to the merch table. They had like some merch, I have like some tees and some prints and stuff. The prints, there was so many prints on this table. It was a huge table. I don't know, the stacks must have been maybe like 2 inches tall per photo. So you're talking a photo, right? So it's like a fucking book. There's a shit ton of these prints. Each print was $120. And not that it's not justified. You know, the prints were cool. But I'm like, what the fuck? And I didn't like the exchange of it. Like, it felt weird. And I was like, why is it this type of person that's selling these prints? And not that, again, it felt like slight exploitation. I didn't like that shit. I didn't like that somebody else was making money off of a culture that is not their own. Like, it felt like a cash grab in a way, you know, like, oh, like we can make this shit look cool and these fools will buy it, you know? So it was kind of a bummer. Like, I didn't like that part of it. Again, it just felt like cultural exploitation. And I've never been one to be like complaining about shit like this, but I do have an issue when I see it and I feel it and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And I didn't like that. I could appreciate what was trying to be done, but I think execution wise, it could have been done differently. You know, like walking into the space and hearing like house music. I was like, why the fuck am I hearing house music? The event's called Los Lowriders. Why am I not hearing, oldies? Why am I not hearing funk? Why am I not hearing freestyle? Anything like that? But then after the Mayan performance, it's like the people who were running the event, they were like, we have to change it up. We have to fix the vibe because the vibe wasn't there. And all of a sudden now it's different. So I'm just like, And like, again, I think certain things could have been done differently, without a doubt. After that, we ended up just getting dinner, chilling out, going into conversation, talking about all kinds of stuff, how we felt about the event, what, all of these things. And I started talking about just some things like how I've been feeling, because Friday, I'd say Friday was a pretty emotional day because it was Mother's Day. I know a lot of you are probably like, wait, Mother's Day is on Sunday. But for Latinos, we celebrate it also on Friday, on the 10th. So for us, it's a big deal. And it's cool for our moms and our grandmas and people that we see as like motherly figures, people who raised us, things like that, because it's like we get to celebrate you. Not only do we celebrate you all year long, because at least that's how I see it, but we get to celebrate you twice, especially within this week, right? It's a week of celebration, it's for you. So, I was talking to Albert and Yessie about it because it's the first Mother's Day without my Uncle Alfredo, which is my mom's brother. And it was a holiday that we always spent together. It was a very important holiday for us, because my grandma means a lot to the family. She's the glue, right? Which I'm sure for a lot of you listening and watching, it's the same thing. Oh, my grandma's the glue. My grandma's the glue. It very much is that, because she has a lot of love to give. And it was hard watching her just kind of go through the days. Friday one and then Sunday another. But there was something also really beautiful about it, because as hard as it was to understand and have to process the fact that my uncle's not here, we are still here for whatever reason. So I definitely appreciate my time. I love my mom with all my heart. And like Friday, I took her out. My grandma wanted to hang back and just kind of chill out. And we understood that, we respected her space, respected her time. She wanted to I feel like she's still in a grieving period. And granted, I mean, it's her son, how can you tell somebody to not be sad about losing their kid, or about losing anyone, but I think especially in her position, like losing her son. So my mom and I were like, okay, cool. So went out to breakfast, chilled, talk. And I was talking to Albert and Yessie about all that. But I had a very newfound appreciation for what I have. I think the last year has brought me a lot of perspective, which I know we've talked about quite a bit on this show. And I'm very lucky and very thankful for it, because even at my lowest times, at the times I feel like absolute trash, I always remember certain things, whether it's people who've passed, whether it's situations that I've gone through. And I'm like, damn, okay, you have exactly what you need. Keep it moving. If the day seems like too much to handle, then you take it down to the hour. And if the hour is too much to handle, you take it down to the minute. And if the minute's too much to handle, then you just take it a breath at a time. And I didn't used to see that. Like, I didn't used to see things that way. I didn't used to have that perspective. I didn't have it at all. It didn't exist for me. And now I have it. And whether it was hard, I didn't like the way I had to learn it, but I think sometimes you're going to learn shit in life a certain way because that's how you have to learn it. Some people learn it a little bit softer. Some people learn it even harder. But I think when you go through things, you go through it for a reason. I know that sounds very cliche, but it's the fucking truth at the end of the day. Everything that you go through and things that you endure, you are enduring them for a reason. All the actions, all the decisions, everything that you've done has added up to that moment. Sometimes things are freak accidents, right? But who knows? Who knows? Things happen for a reason. But with all of that being said, it's like I kept seeing something recently and I wanted to talk about it on the cast. I didn't know how, and this I figured somehow I can kind of wrap this in. But I've been seeing this thing on Instagram a lot. Like it's just it's like I know you guys have seen them, especially here on the podcast. Like if you're on the podcast Instagram, where I'll repost quotes. Like they're done in like a very, very artsy way, where it'll say some sort of quote and it's written on like a colorful background with like set type a certain way. But I kept seeing this one, not just on my podcast page, but on my personal page. I'd see it on my explore page, or I'd have friends send it to me or reposting it. And I'm like, fuck, why do I keep seeing this shit? And I mean, I've been going through it lately. I haven't been at my best, but I keep seeing this fucking thing. And what it says is, so far you have survived 100% of your worst days. This too shall pass. And I'm like, damn. Because no matter how bad I feel, it's going to pass. Because it's going to happen, whether I want it to happen or not. And that's what I'm having to struggle with. But reading things and constantly seeing shit like this, I'm like, I don't know what it means, whether it's an algorithm thing, chalk it up to whatever the fuck you want. But it's very rare that I see the same thing multiple times from multiple people, different channels, all over the place. Like it's very fucking rare. And I'm sure even as I'm saying it, you're probably thinking about it and you're like, damn, you're fucking right. When was the last time when it came to something like that, either with like a quote or something of the sort, anything on social, that you'll see it again? Instantly, if a photographer or videographer posts something like that, some sort of work, you'll see it get shared right away. But I'm talking about random, completely random. That's how this was. And it kept crossing my space. So I'm like, all right, well, as shitty as I feel towards certain things and as shitty as certain situations are, they will pass. And they are passing. Even right now, as I'm talking about it, like time is passing. And does it get easier? I can't necessarily say that just yet. I know that as more time passes, things will become easier. Right now, it doesn't feel that way. But I mean, things do get lighter as it goes. And thankfully, I have supportive people, people who love me, people who care in my life, that are willing to like listen to me. They're willing to help me and understand. And they don't judge me for it. Because they're like, well, hey, if this relationship is still bothering you and it's still weighing you down, let's talk about it. Hey, if this one thing with your family is still going down, or it's shit's starting to go down and you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. It doesn't matter how many times you talked about it. Let's get through it. And they're actively trying to just help me get through this tunnel that I'm in. So I'm appreciative for that. Not, I mean, I love all these people, everyone in my life that is active, for sure. I definitely feel it. I see it. And I'm thankful, without a doubt. But I thought it was funny. And I was trying to think of some advice that can go with it, because I remember it was sometime last week, I randomly came across a quote and I was like, ooh, I knew that was going to be the advice. Like I knew I wanted to share this as the bit of advice. And I'm not going to say it goes hand in hand, but it kind of does, because it's like I was talking about, right? Like I might not be able to control certain things, but if I have control of certain situations, I have to just kind of let go. I have to let the universe do its thing, because I'm trying to fight the current, which we talk about very, very often on here. So I'm like, it kind of wraps in, it kind of feels with it. And the quote is, stop being the one who always makes efforts. Relax and let the ship sink. Again, stop being the one who always makes efforts. Relax and let the ship sink. I've been so wrapped up lately in certain situations with certain people, and honestly things in my life, that I'm trying to grasp, and I'm trying so hard to keep afloat. And it's like, I can swim. So, and I know that with how far I've gotten in my life, I know damn well that I'm capable of swimming, I'm capable of floating, I'm capable of moving, regardless of any situation that's come awry. And I'm like, okay, I gotta just fucking let this shit go, because I'm trying to save everyone on the ship, but all I gotta do is jump off and I'll be all right. Like I will be okay. And if people want to join me If they want to come my way or get onto my raft or however it is that I'm going to get off this vessel, you're more than welcome. But I'm not going to beg you. You want to go down with the ship? Fuck it. It is what it is. Because I find myself coming up to my birthday, right? Like, which again, this is going to be a constant theme. I know probably a lot of y'all probably tired of this shit. I don't fucking care. But I'm thinking, I'm processing, I'm going to be turning 34. And it's like, where do I want to be? There's so many things that I've been actively changing and trying to get in front of. And I'm seeing results. I'm seeing and I'm feeling the change, especially on the professional side. I'm very proud of how far I've come. I didn't think I'd be exactly where I am a year from now, or a year ago. I didn't think I'd be where I am right now. Certain relationships with friends, again, been making certain changes, and I've definitely let certain ships sink, but I had to. And I also feel the benefit of it, because now I feel a little bit lighter. I feel like, okay, I can keep it moving, and there's still other things and people and situations that I need to let sink, for sure. And it's fucking sad. I hate that shit. I fucking hate it with every bone in my body. And it's not something I want to do. But I think as I get older, I also need to realize, hey, this is a part of building stability. This is a part of building things you can trust, you can rely on, because that's your job at the end of the day. It's nobody else's job. You're the only person who can straighten out your path. People can help you and they can help guide you and help light your path, but you're ultimately the one that has to choose to walk down it or drive down it or sail down it, whatever the fuck it is that you have to do and however you got to get there. So right now, that's a part of the tough pills that I'm swallowing, which is, again, just stopping trying to keep people in my life that don't want to be in it, because your actions will always speak louder than words. And the people who fuck with you and who love you and who care for you and want to be in your life will show you so. And when they don't, that's enough. Let the actions speak for that. Because people show you who they are. They might tell you who they are, but the fucking thing is, people will always show you. Because they will make certain decisions. They will make active decisions to fuck you off because you don't matter to them. It's their life. They're going to do what benefits them the most. And it's like, do you really want people like that in your life? So that's what I'm having to struggle with right now, is like realizing that, hey, as much as I've been struggling, as much as I've been fighting to keep certain people, they keep actively fucking me off and making decisions that show me they could fucking care less. They could fucking care less. And once you kind of sit there with that, you're like, oh, all right. I wouldn't do that to them. They're doing it to me. Why the fuck am I allowing this shit to happen? Because that sort of pain and that disturbance of peace is something that I'm allowing. So I got to put my boots on and just keep it moving. I hope you guys can sit with that bit of advice. Think about it. If you're in a situation, if you know somebody who's going through it a little bit, share the quotes, share these things. Again, that's what this cast is for, to start conversations about conversations with friends, with family, strangers, anybody. We're here to talk about it. That's what this life is all about. Sharing the knowledge, spreading love, spreading light, all these things. And that's what this show stands for, without a doubt. But I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Share it, comment. What do you guys want me to talk about for next week? Let me know. Shoot me a DM, something. Let's get into it. But I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, a great weekend, and I will catch you guys next week for the next episode.